Do you sometimes need to apply a tenant's security deposit to an expense that the tenant caused you? Well, then you should watch this video, Applying Deposits to Tenants' Expenses. If you have any questions about this topic, you can leave them in the comments section below and I'll do my best to help you. And of course, if you feel the video helped you, I hope you will click like and don't forget to subscribe to get updates on new videos that come out all the time. What happened that caused you to apply a tenant's deposit? Well, you paid an expense that a tenant is responsible for, like some damages. The tenant does not give you a specific separate payment to reimburse you for the damages. You apply some of the tenant's deposit to that expense. So what happened when you paid the expense? Well, when you first paid the expense, of course, your expense went up and your cash went down because you had to pay an expense. But then what happens when you apply a tenant's deposit to that expense? Well, if you apply a tenant's deposit, that means you owe the tenant less because you're not going to give back the deposit. You used it for an expense. So when you apply a tenant's deposit to an expense, deposits payable in the trial balance will decrease. The expense that you just recorded when you paid will actually go down. And that's because you have less expense if the tenant is paying for it. So this is what it looks like if we combine the two steps into one. When you record the payment, what you do is you put security deposit payable as the account category instead of putting what the actual expense is. And that is how you apply a tenant's security deposit to an expense. Let's think about this. What happened when you paid the expense? Expenses went up and cash went down. And then when you apply the security deposit, deposits go down and expenses go down. So why not just combine them into one step so that when you actually pay the expense, you put deposit payable as the account, and that will satisfy two birds in one stone. Now, you know that both will decrease when you pay the expense. When you pay the expense, cash will go down, but because you're paying something that the client or the tenant is responsible for, then deposits payable will go down for that very same check. Now, this is the trial balance before we record our first transaction where we apply the tenant's security deposit. And right now, before we do that, security deposits payable is $900 and cash is $72,195. Now, here's our example. Let's imagine on September 1 of 2019, Gary Greenstein broke the gate in the hallway between the apartments. On September 5th, 2019, you paid Rex Repair Shop $300 to fix it, and you apply some of Gary's deposits to cover it. So what will happen in the trial balance if you do that? Well, they will both decrease by $300. So therefore, security deposits payable will become $600 after this transaction, and cash in bank will become $71,895 after this transaction. Okay, so let's take a look at how to record it. Now, we click New, and we go to Check or Expense. Either way, we're paying someone, whether it be a written check or online. But let's just click expense because I did not really give a check number in the transaction. Now the date is September 1 of 2019. And the payee was Rex Repair Shop. I lost my list, so just bear with me for a second. And the amount, as you know, is $300. Now, here's where it gets interesting. You will not choose repair expense in the trial balance. Instead, because this is an expense that the tenant is responsible for, and you are applying their security deposits, you will instead choose the security deposit payable account. And that will decrease cash and decrease the security deposits payable account by the $300 that Gary is responsible for. Now, it also gets interesting on this note. You must put the tenant's name and the reason for the payment in the description memo field. You must put it here, and that's because there is, in QuickBooks Online, it is the only way to see whose deposit is being used. And you will see this after we record the transaction. So we're going to put here the name Gary Greenstein / Broken Gate. That's the only way. And now we're going to click Save and Close. Now, when we click Reports, Custom Reports, Trial Balance, you can see that the numbers are exactly as what we expected. Security deposits payable is $600, and cash in bank decreased to the $71,895 that we expected. Now, you may well ask, what about Gary's balance? The tenant balance detail will not show any deposit transaction. This is because QuickBooks Online cannot have more than one accounts receivable type of account. You would need another accounts receivable type of account to track separate parts of a customer's balance, like the separation between a customer's deposit balance from the balance of the rent owed or prepaid. So what do? Well, you must get the details from the security deposits payable account. You have to double-click and open that up. And then you will be able to export that to Excel. But let me show you what that means. If I come back to here and I double-click security deposits payable, you can see, I'm going to open this, I'm going to zoom a little bit here so you can see it better. Okay, you can see that when you look at the security deposits payable general ledger account, for every transaction, you can see the name of the person you paid, but you have to be careful. You have to be careful because in this case, the payee is Rex Repair. You have to look in the memo and description to see what that transaction is about so that you can isolate Gary's transactions. So if I wanted to know what was Gary's security deposit balance, I would find the first transaction for Gary Greenstein, where he gave us 800 as a positive number. Then I would find the second transaction for Gary Greenstein within the deposits payable account and see that it's actually this second Gary Greenstein transaction is a decrease, and that's how I would figure out Gary's remaining balance. And what you could do is you could export this to Excel in order to sort and isolate all the transactions of any specific tenant. So if I'm here, I can click the export to Excel, And then once it shows up in Excel, I could sift through it and sort through all the transactions that only belong to Gary Greenstein so I can figure out Gary's specific remaining amount of deposit payable.